decades in a place where there was very little to smile about. Chapter 6: The Wedding at the End of the World. While Stephen Warshak was preparing for his trial, Kirk Wright was preparing for a party. October 22, 2005. The hedge fund superstar was throwing a wedding that would be remembered in Atlanta for a generation. 3 ice-scarf bars, lobster, champagne, sushi. $500,000 vanished into a single night of excess. Only a sociopath could have enjoyed that party. Kirk knew the truth. Ema was a hollow shell. The $155 million account statement he had shown his analysts was a forgery, a template he had downloaded from the internet and filled with imaginary numbers. The company hadn't gained 3%. It had lost 24%. The NFL players were starting to ask questions. Steve Atwater felt physically sick when the checks began to bounce. The team was falling apart. But that night, Kirk Wright danced. He toasted his new wife. He looked like a man on top of the world, even as the FBI was sharpening its knives in the shadows. He was a fugitive from reality long before he became a fugitive from the law. When the honeymoon ended, the nightmare began. The NFL players went to court. A judge froze the assets. And when the FBI raided the Ema offices, they found something even more shocking than the fraud itself. They found almost nothing. The $150 million was gone, vanished into luxury cars, marble floors, gold fixtures, and the fleeting joy of a $500,000 wedding. Kirk Wright fled. For 3 months, he was a ghost, calling reporters from throwaway cell phones, claiming he wasn't running, just protecting his safety. "I'm not a fugitive," he told the Wall Street Journal, while lounging by a pool at the Ritz-Carlton in South Beach. "I'm just being careful." The arrogance of the con artist is a terminal condition. Kirk believed he could negotiate his way out of a Ponzi scheme. He believed the world still owed him the life he had stolen. Chapter 7: The Final Exit. The end for Kirk Wright came not with a bang, but with the rustle of a bed sheet. He was caught in Miami, taken back to Atlanta, and convicted on 47 counts of fraud and money laundering. In May 2008, as he sat in his cell, the weight of the hundreds of years of sentencing began to press down on him. He was a man of quality of life. He couldn't imagine a world without a Bentley, without the Ritz-Carlton, without the adoration of the elite. Without the quality, life was a balance sheet he couldn't justify. 3 days after his conviction, the guards found him. He had used a bedsheet and the top bunk to make his final exit. He died as he lived selfishly. With his death, the last hopes of his investors died too. He took the secrets of the missing money to his grave, leaving men like Steve Atwater and hundreds of other investors with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. In a rented condo, a 71-year-old former businessman watched his wife go back to work. He had lost everything to the Harvard man. "I wanted to see him at the sentencing," the man said, his eyes hollow. "I wanted to look him in the eye. But he robbed me of that. 2. Chapter 8. The Ghost of Michael Johnson. The customer service department at Berkeley Premium Nutraceuticals was a labyrinth designed to lead to nowhere. It was a fluorescent-lit purgatory where the air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and the desperate pleas of thousands of victims. Ryan, whose identity was hidden behind a pseudonym to protect what little pride he had left, remembered the first time he tried to cancel. He had spent $400 on an 8-month supply of Inzite, hoping for a miracle that never arrived. Instead, he found a recurring nightmare on his bank statement. "I need to speak with Michael Johnson," Ryan told the voice on the other end of the line. "Mr. Johnson is in a meeting, sir," the rep replied. The script was taped to their monitor, a well-worn piece of paper that instructions them on how to deflect, delay, and destroy any hope of a refund. There was no Michael Johnson. He was a corporate phantom, a name assigned to a role that existed solely to absorb the anger of the swindled. The company had created an entire hierarchy of ghosts. When a caller became too irate, they were transferred to supervisors who were merely other reps sitting at the next desk, changing their accents and names to fit the fiction. The absurdity reached its peak when customers were told they needed notarized letters from their doctors. Stephen Warshak sat in his glass-walled office, watching the metrics on his screen. Every failed cancellation was a victory. Every frustrated customer who hung up in despair was more oxygen for his lifestyle. "We aren't just selling supplements," Stephen told his board of directors, mostly family members who were getting rich off the scam. "We are selling the difficulty of being heard. If it's hard to complain, people will stop complaining." But some didn't stop. The Better Business Bureau was becoming a fortress of evidence. The Cincinnati Magazine comic strips were mocking his empire. The laughter was turning into a roar of indignation. Chapter 9. The Blitz. In Atlanta, the mood was shifting from admiration to apprehension. Steve Atwater sat in his home, looking at the account statements from EMA. They looked perfect to perfect. Every month showed a gain, regardless of how the market was performing. It was a mathematical impossibility, but Kirk Wright had explained it away with his proprietary algorithms. "I've been hit by 300-pound linemen," Steve, one of his former teammates, said over the phone. "But this feels like something else. This feels like we're being blindsided." When the news broke that Wright had fled, the blitz began. But this time, the players were the ones being sacked. They rushed to the EMA offices, only to find the doors locked and the computers gone. The image of Kirk Wright, the Harvard man, the genius, the friend, was disintegrating. In its place was a sociopath who had used their trust as collateral for his own vanity. The marble floors of his mansion were stained with the metaphorical blood of their retirement funds. Atwater, a man who had faced the toughest opponents on the field, felt a vulnerability he hadn't known since he was a rookie. He hadn't just lost money, he had been the one to recruit his friends. The guilt was a weight that no Bentley could carry. Chapter 10, 7 Tons of Truth. March 16.